Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Yvonne, for the brief introduction for our esteemed guest here. The title, Understanding Neurodivergence, Creating Bridges, Not Barriers. I just want to share a bit on a personal note as well. This is also a journey for myself or my family that started certainly more than 30 years ago, both on my mom's side, my cousin, and both on my father's side, another cousin, also neurodivergent or on the spectrum. And so growing up with them for the past 30 years, I've also have my own personal experience on this. And maybe for today, why we're doing this in conjunction with the World Autism Month in April. We want to have this conversation, as mentioned by Yvonne, to raise awareness and promote acceptance of neurodivergent universe and how we, as a corporate citizen, can move beyond just acknowledgement, but to foster a more inclusion into this. All right. So there's three areas where we will cover today. First, of course, to understand better what is neurodiversity and the difference, and then the growing up challenges, okay, from our speakers here. And also we're going to talk about transitioning into adulthood from the society and also from the workplace. All right. Before, I know Yvonne has done a bit of introduction, but maybe each one of our guests here can give their own version of introduction themselves, and maybe I start with Nori here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Test? Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum, and very good, I think almost afternoon to everybody. Thank you so much, Khairi. We're really grateful to be here today. My name is Nori Abdullah. I am, I suppose in this context, a mother first of all. That's my journey to becoming an advocate. Have 3 sons. They're all very colorful, but one of them happens to be autistic, and that started the work that I'm doing as a parent and a community advocate. Have been involved in social and charity work for some time through Penyayang. I've also been an entrepreneur, but more like a social entrepreneur, although my background was in international relations and geography. Didn't get to work with the UN, ended up coming home. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Grace, as introduced by the CEO. So I'm Enabling Academy Manager under Yayasan GAMUDA. So basically why I'm in this field is because I really see the importance of the society to be aware of the potential of the neurodivergent. Because when I first joined this field, it was back in 15 years ago. I was still with the NGOs before I joined GAMUDA, and back then I was a job coach. And it was the first time that I actually came across this concept, and knowing that through this bridge as a job coach, that there's more people with learning disabilities or the neurodivergent that can get adapted, assimilated into the workplace. So hence, I'm here today to continue to advocate for this, for the real inclusion to happen in the real workplace.
Hi, very good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adli Yahya. I'm 61, and I have 6 kids with me, are all grown up, and I'm basically a parent with autism. That's my son. There it is. He's Lukman. He's nonverbal. He's 27, and I have set up a little project called the Autism Cafe Project 9 years back, solely focused on getting him to be online and in line with this future. So basically, I've set up a vehicle for him to charter his future. So it has been 10 years. I'm very lucky, I guess. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Nori, Grace, and Chair Adli. And as I, do this, as I mentioned, at personal basis also, I have my family members. Like Chair Adli said, he started the Autism Cafe. My late aunt, resigned from her work to take care of my cousin, and they also moved to outside of KL because my cousin into carpentry, so he likes to, bertukang and all. So they found, what he likes to do, hence, he's doing it. So they moved to a farm where there's, when you have I think about 2 acres farm, there's so many things that you can do. So as I say, when they do that, I can understand. And of course, the other cousin, my aunt and my uncle decided to move to Australia because this is, talking about 20, 30 years ago, which we will talk more. That at that point of time, it's still very new and very, I don't know what's the right word to use, but it's not open, right? People don't really talk about it, and there's not enough support. But because of my uncle and my auntie has the option where in a place like Australia, and alhamdulillah, I can just share also my cousin, that one, he's probably about 32, 33, has probably 2 jobs, in Perth, and we love to go because he loves to cook as well for us and host us. So yeah, we'll talk more about this and share our experience. So yeah, very good. I'm going to start with Grace on this. So we're going to go to the very basic, all right? Grace, so I think the question, some may not be still familiar even today. What is neurodiversity? And what are the common examples of neurodiversity? Thank you.
So when it comes to neurodiversity, and if you break it down, neuro refers to the brain. Diversity refers to the differences. So basically, in the short term, it refers to the variations in human brain. No 2 brains are the same. So even though being different, it doesn't mean they are lesser than the others. So basically, the main point of embracing neurodiversity is we embrace the differences. Different, not less. And the examples is usually we refer to those people whose brain are a bit different from the typical. So we refer ourselves the neurotypical brain. The standard is because the way we are thinking is quite similar, but for people with neurodivergent conditions, their brain is wired in a different way. So usually we refer to people like, for example, people with autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, OCD, and etc. So this is basically what we refer by neurodivergent individuals. And it is important to look into this aspect now because according to the statistic, 1 in 5 are neurodivergent. So in your office today, there are many neurodivergent out there, either is undiagnosed or undisclosed.
Thanks, Chris. To add into it, there's a certain age where, from baby and all, but sometimes there is a certain age when neurodiversity usually diagnosed or able to see the difference. So is it possible for a person to be diagnosed only when they reach adulthood, or there's at the time at the age as a child that there's certain things that you see difference and then you can start to go for diagnosis? Thank you.
Yeah, the answer is absolute yes. Why I say yes is because maybe just a quick background on what our program is. So basically, Enabling Academy is a 3-month employment transition program fully sponsored by Yayasan GAMUDA to equip neurodivergent individuals with the essential employability skills before we place them into the workforce. So many graduates that come to us, many applicants that come to us, a lot of them, they are late diagnosed because our program, we only take in those who are 21 years old and above, those that we foresee that will be more ready for the workforce. So a lot of them, they come to us maybe at their 20 years old or some 30. And recently, I have one that actually come to me at 39 years old. And she has been in the managerial roles. And only till 38 years old, she was diagnosed with autism. And why she was being diagnosed is because of the autistic burnout. Because she has been masking all these whiles. And she did not know that actually she has this condition called autism. She only realized about this is because of her friend that's in another alexithymia club saying that so-and-so, you look autistic. I think you should go and seek for diagnosis. That's what prompted her to actually seek diagnosis. And I have another graduate. She's married with kids. It's because of his son that they suspect that the son has autism, that it also kind of prompted him that I should get myself checked as well. And even the spouse also suspecting that he could be on the spectrum. So even though, yes, usually for those with obvious symptoms, they can be detected since early childhood, like such as autism, you can detected since toddler, 18 months old, but many of them, they may not come with all these obvious classical symptoms that it will only get discovered at later stage. So it is a very common thing. It's because either like female, especially female, they are very good in masking to fit in until they get a burnout like I mentioned, or it's due to the awareness that a lot of people not aware. Like I have one in my team at the moment, he is a neurodivergent, and lately we actually recruited him as part of the trainer in Enabling Academy. He's actually our batch 13 graduate. He said all this while, he did well academically. So parents, according to his quotes, he said Asian parents, study well, no problem. Even though antisocial, don't have many friends, it's fine. But until he actually get into the workplace, and he really struggled, and he actually developed depression. So when he seek help for his depression, then only he received his diagnosis as an autistic individual.
Thank you, Grace, for, I hope, the audience are very clear about it. I probably want to start with Nori first. As a parent, how did you first discover that your child is special? And what were the thoughts and feelings that ran through your mind at that point of time? Nori, please go ahead.
Timo was officially diagnosed at 3, but I think we started to see signs of him being different from about 2-ish. He was going to a little center where was doing like reading. It's not so much a full preschool, but they had also called me in for a talk to say that Timor is different. They don't believe in using labels, but they wanted to alert us so that perhaps we could go find out more. So I think because of that, and because I had also wondered and noticed, and we have other neurodivergent individuals in our family. Our family is quite colorful. So we had a sense of it a little bit, although at that point in time, of course, not so much about autism. But it was, I think, big mixed feelings when the A word popped up. I can't say that I was completely shocked, but at the same time, you don't expect it. And first instinct, I think, for us was that we wanted to do something. So we immediately got into action mode. We felt we have to go to therapy. We have to do something to help him, see what it is that, there is out there. But I think it took about a year later where I was sort of hit with the reality that this is lifelong. Something in me previously had thought that if we support him and help him, put him through therapy, give him every option that we could, it would all be okay. But when I had a breakdown moment, I think I definitely had a breakdown moment, and so it's definitely a lot of the mixed feelings, and some of the common things will include grief, will include denial, on top of the shock. These are very, common human reactions because it's something that you don't expect. It's something that you don't expect, and it is depending on your level of awareness of it, can influence how you might react. So essentially, big mixed feelings, big emotions. They're hard at first, but I think you have to slowly move through them, acknowledge that they're there, even if it takes time. In my case, it took maybe a year for the full feelings to be there. But also then remember, your child is still your child. A child is a blessing, and you want to move forward with it because your child is still going to need you.
Thank you, Nori. Maybe Adli want to add, when you first, as a parent, discover what man is special and how, you felt about it, and like that,
Okay.
what Nori shared. Thank you.
I discovered Lukman was having autism, I think around the age of 1.5 to 2 years, The first symptoms that we discovered was basically he skipped everything. He wants to stand up and run. So there's no crawling, there's no lying on the tummy and all, nothing. He just stood up and he wants to run. So that is actually one of the many symptoms, red flag I call it, for autism. But I didn't realize that. I saw he's trying to stand up and he's trying to run on his own. Wow, you feel proud, But those are the signs. And the other thing that I discovered was when he was about 1.5 years old, you know, kids with 1.5 years old, once they arrive at home, they just threw their slippers or their shoes. But not him. He placed it in pairs, neatly in pairs. So it's kind of strange, you know, then you know, this is something that's not right, but you don't know what it is, you know. Imagine it was 27 years ago, there was no internet, there was no knowledge about autism. So we were grappling, what are we dealing with, you know? And we saw the classic symptoms was, you know, he jumped on one spot, and he ran around like hours, sometimes you get tired watching him, you know. But he doesn't, you know. So those are the strange things that we saw, and we knew, I basically knew something is not right. But I was in denial. I refused to go to the doctor, and I just left it by itself. And but later I discovered, and we went to the doctors and stuff, you know. But true enough, he's autistic. He is non-verbal, 90% non-verbal, but he understands instructions. So, well, I have to live with it.
Thank you, Adli and Nori, to share. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's as if for me, it's not myself, you know, my uncles and my aunties, but we were close. So you know, we also saw the, you know, as my cousins grew up, right, and then how they were handling it. I know it's not easy. I know, like, you know, Nori said, you know, we went through that tough time, the breakdown and all. But I guess eventually, as you know, you accept it, right? I mean, the situation, and there's a lot of things that you can do. In fact, the attention that's spent on the children also is a lot more, right? In terms of preparing for the schools, right? Preparing for the next steps and all. So I think it's something for all of us. We look at it also a way for us to accept that in every life there's always an opportunity, you know, to treat your children a bit more special. It's not like to abandon, but to treat them with more, you know, your attention to spend and needs with them, right? Okay, the next one is going to touch a bit on the growing up challenges, right? As we go into it, that growing up for neurodivergent individual may involve navigating significant hurdles, including the inclusive, as I mentioned just now, education, high stigma. Again, you know, it's much better nowadays, especially the last 10-15 years, but not the same way back in the 90s, for example. The high stigma, and also on potential of bullying as well. And at that point of time, as I mentioned, you know, one of my uncle and auntie had to migrate to Australia. Lack of trained specialists. Maybe all three of you will be able to share in various you know, different experience and different areas of things that you had to go through. Yeah, Nori, you can start first. Thank you.
Yes, I think when it comes to what it is that is needed, we have come a long way in terms of some awareness in the services and support that's available. So Alhamdulillah, things would probably be a little bit better for your cousins today if they were younger and diagnosed. And we're still continuing to learn. But the stigma remains. So for example, we have just sort of, you know, we're finishing up Mohd Raya is to sort of, you know, actually kind of still there. And we still hear, especially since this time it's coincided with Autism Awareness Month, about how many families still feel that they're not really welcome. They feel a bit lonely and isolated. They cannot celebrate the way other people do, to go to open houses, to visit. They don't feel that their child will be comfortable or accepted. And sometimes it's the simple things, but the simple things that hurt, like a look, right? A look, judgment, rather than curiosity or can I support. So the challenges are varied. There are a lot of gaps that remain in terms of intervention and support. And if we talk about even the things that we understand are aware of. If I may mention that our own journey initially was perhaps driven very much by not wanting our son to be left behind, but I think to now remembering or acknowledging that every human life, every person has intrinsic worth. If you're here today, you're present, you're born, you have worth. There is a purpose for you to be here, you know, and I think that's the same for our kids. And it doesn't have to be something that they themselves do actively. It is, well, if we didn't have Timur, I probably wouldn't be sitting here to speak to all of you today. So what I think needs to shift is not just the expertise in certain areas, but what we hope for through events like today, which is the opening up of, hearts and minds and knowing a little bit more, right? So for example, I think Grace's story is probably one of those really good ones. She was a job coach to begin with. So she was a job coach. All of you here, you are subject matter experts in your own right in so many different areas. But if you start being a bit more aware about neurodivergence, autistic people, or different people who need support, you'll probably come to thinking, a different way of how maybe you would interact with them, or what is the context of that in relation to the things that you know. And as Malaysians, we are quite used to being accommodating. We know what to do. We are diverse already in many other ways. And we do that for each other. We do that for each other if we go out for lunch. If there's a vegetarian or halal requirement, I think every single one of you already knows what to do. And so if we are a little bit more aware, if I can say that yes, we lack the technical expertise, we do not have enough speech therapists in the country, we do not have enough occupational therapists, we do not have enough even trained people in our school system. And we are hoping for more. The government is trying to help. NGOs are always there. Many things are very parent and community driven. But I think for the three of us, whenever we come out and do these things, we're hoping for something to just come from anybody who can perhaps hear our message. Because you can definitely make a difference. It's wonderful to hear your stories about you and your family and how, you take an interest and you're supportive of each other. And this is what we hope for people to do in their own community, in their own way.
Thank you, Nori. Charlie, maybe, as the question when the stigma and schools and, preparing for his education, definitely different, but how do you, go through those process and the experience that you had with Luqman?
My son, Luqman, as I said, he's passive. Meaning if there is a fire in front of him, we'll just look at it. No action. Until you ask him, Luqman, please run away. Then he will run. So having said that, fitting him in the society is very difficult if you don't understand him, He is very rajin, tau. He is very rajin, very helpful, whatnot, And a good example is this. If this table is full of dirty plates, and you ask him, Luqman, can you clean the plate? And you pointed specifically for this plate, not the other plate. You just point to this one. And he will only clean this one. So if you put him in a position where the current status is outside there, if you employ him, then if you don't understand what his autism is all about, you might say that he's lazy, but he is not. His thinking is entirely different from us. It has to be very specific. Luqman, clean the whole plate. Then he will do it. So we have at our cafe a couple of boys who are in a similar situation as he is. And the life cycle is like in and out from the cafe. They work, and then once they find a position outside, they work for a couple of months and got fired and back to the cafe. And work at the cafe, work outside again, there he is for 3-4 months and got fired again. The thing is, people refuse, probably I'm very strict here, probably people refuse to understand what is autism, I don't know. But the trend is, if you don't understand them, there will be a huge issues, So what we did was, basically, at the cafe too, we understand them. Luqman loves water. He loves water. So what we did was, we gave him a chore that involves water, clean the plate, mop the floor. You know, when you pair it with the correct task and his liking, a surefire success. So the cleanest plate you will ever seen in your life is from him. You know? And we have one boy who refused to. He talked nonstop. And what we did with him was, we gave him tasks of entertaining customers. You know, you can talk as much as you can to the customers, you know. So that is his liking. So you need to pair it nicely with what they like. So a simple task that actually get them in the mood, and you know, you wonder, hey, is this autism? You know. So I think on my side is pairing them with the right task and with their job scope and all is very much crucial to their future. You know, I'm glad that we have been operating for almost 10 years, and we have trained so far about 103 individuals with autism. So I'm happy with the outcome, yeah.
Alhamdulillah, thank you, Chair Adli and Nori. Is there anything on your side, Grace? Yeah? Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, we talk about, you know, the growing up and that, but if we can ask this question again, so back to Nori and Chair Adli, right? What are the gaps, you know, because you've experienced it, you know, for 15 or almost 30 years, right? The gaps that exist in the early intervention, in the schooling in here in Malaysia, and also the community support, and what should be the effective education for the neurodivergent children? I mean, you know, if you can just cover on this, yeah. Thanks.
Sorry, I'm sorry that I didn't address it directly what some of those challenges are. Now, the challenges, if I can just sort of round up, go back to that, and I will come to speak about the gaps, that because the brain perceives, thinks, operates differently, then so many things have to be different, right, in terms of education, for example. Early intervention is where there has been a lot of growth, but there's still not nearly enough in terms of a demand versus services that are offered. You've probably read in the newspapers about how we are getting, or very much hopeful about more autistic centres, because until today there is one national centre per Mata Kunia. The wait list for that is nearly like 2 years. For example, and now the government has announced that at state levels we will have them, and then soon enough later, you know, they will be rolling them out. So we have gaps in terms of like education because there's not enough support to understand their learning style, to be able to support the fact that they may have sensory needs and other things that can co-occur with an autism diagnosis. So there might be, so for some neurodivergence, their brain and thinking work differently, but they might not necessarily be, not necessarily have a disability, but some do. And then, for example, in the context of, well, Luqman, for example, Adli has said that he's non-verbal or non-speaking. It doesn't mean he's non-thinking. It doesn't mean that he has no opportunity to communicate in other ways, but when you have an education system catering only to the masses, then you run into those problems. Now, services that are related, for example, to therapy, which falls under allied health, we have not nearly enough. In the government system, if you get to see an occupational therapist once in 2 months, you're considered very, very fortunate. More likely, you'll get to see one in 6 months for 30 minutes. Therapy is something that, as you know, in whatever context needs to be regular, needs to be structured, and something that somebody can really have. And they don't have access to it. Cost is also very, very high. One-to-one therapy session, which some autistic people do need on a very regular basis, and that would mean usually the recommendation is once a week, that can set you back between 150 to 300 ringgit per session. That's beyond affordable for the majority of Malaysians in this country. Even in the private sector, we don't have enough therapists who can do this. So essentially, we are still in need. across many different sectors. And this actually will extend to things like what happens after the formal schooling years, what happens in transition, and that would look at things like, you know, work or job opportunities. But there are so many things, and if you come down to certain very specific issues, there are some that parents find very, very challenging. Insurance, for example. Many insurers, and this is not the fault of any one company, and it's not necessarily even a Bank Negara issue, it's sort of a worldwide thing to consider this as one of those congenital type things without further studies, which I feel they should do more of, from autism, and they just won't insure your child. So if you think about it from all those different aspects, and you know, when you take a look across the areas of education, community support, different types of intervention or therapy, it's already very, very difficult. What more if you're dealing with just day-to-day life of people not really understanding you or your child, and you know, not just being, you know, kind of not being able to be accepted. It is a really, really big challenge. We're doing better. We are doing better, and inshallah we will keep doing better. But it is very, very clear here in Malaysia, and of course many other parts of the world, that more needs to be done.
Thank you, Nori. Yeah, I'm sure, you know, this slowly will get better. But I also feel that when you mentioned about the therapy, which is very, very important, right, for all the, and when you have 6 months gap and it's a half an hour, that's definitely not enough. And monetary as well, right? 150 or 300, up to 300 ringgit per session. I mean, there's only certain groups of people can afford it, right? Yeah. So that's, I'm pretty sure, the way I look at it, that there's still a lot that needs to be done. There's still a lot of gaps there. Back to Grace. We just want to ask you from your experience, you know, as a coach before, and then now involved with the Yayasan GAMUDA, and providing that early part of, you know, probably as early as 20 years old, probably, or are they 21 years old, right? So how was your experience on that in terms of handling them, and what you have seen, or what things have improved over time? Thank you.
My test. Yeah, I totally agree that things are progressing, because we can see the number of registration with the social welfare department is also increasing in terms of autism. But I would say that it's still a long way to go. But definitely we see that back then, 20 years ago, we have a lot of parents that tell us that last time they have no idea. They know their child is different, but they have no idea. But now we have some parents coming to us. They say that, oh, they found out about autism easily on the internet, then they are able to seek for help and all. So they get the resources, they send their child for early intervention. That's where we can see some of the applicants that come to us. We can see in terms of their readiness and their potential to be tapped on. But one thing that I would like to highlight is not all parents are so blessed to have the resources, to have the access to information. We do have some that actually for our program, we really want to reach out to the B40, but it's just that unfortunately, a lot that is from this social economic status that they come to us, a lot of their child is not really prepared and ready. There's still a long gap there, because a lot of them, the moment that they cannot cope with the school or even be bullied in school, the parents will withdraw their child from the school and to keep them at home, and they continue to regress at home. So that is something that we really felt really sad for the current system, that we do have some that we really want to take in, but there is still a long gap there. But I would say that progress part is also in terms of the employer. Nowadays, we do see more employers opening the opportunities, even though may not be full-time job, but at least they are open for internship or work experience, or to open for us to at least do some awareness outreach. I think this is great. I think the other thing, the other gap that I'm seeing is also in terms of the train, like just now Nori mentioned, the allied health professionals, right? There are still a gap in a way that not all are actually fully trained or expert in understanding neurodivergent conditions, because it's a huge spectrum. And we have one that come to us, he has really severe depression issues. And he has gone through so many psychologists and clinical psychologists, psychiatrists, but nothing works for him, until he finally was introduced to a psychologist who is very experienced in autism, and he was diagnosed with autism. And it finally makes sense to him and his parents on why he has been as such. And the diagnosis actually helped him to actually find meaning and to know that why I has been behaving in this way. So I think this is a gap that we hope there's more health professionals out there will be more trained in this area. And even from the education system, we do have some coming from uni and some actually from the school, even they get bullied. So a lot of times, some of them, they are not even aware that they are being bullied until they got graduated, and then they realize that actually this is called bully. Yeah, this is actually a real experience shared by the neurodivergent trainer that is in my team at the moment. And we do have some that actually train educators. They are supposed to be the one who educate the students and everyone about embracing neurodiversity, but sad to say that there are some that didn't lead by the example, but they actually use the wrong way to actually guide the neurodivergent. When they are not behaving the same as the rest, they are being punished, they are being just left alone, or they're being asked to send for disciplinary actions. So we do have one that he will get meltdown the moment you mention about punishment, the word, or cane, because this is a traumatic experience. So they continue to live in trauma experience. So I think there is a lot of gap that we see in terms of the system educations, and even the parents' attitude. We see those that have been successfully assimilated into the society are those that parents, they come into realizations and they actually come to acceptance and willing to create the ecosystem to support their child. I think one thing that part of our selection criteria is we also assess the parents when we interview the candidates. We will see how open the parents in actually working together with us to make it happen for their children. Because some of the parents, they will be very afraid of their child not getting a place in our program, and they will hide certain information. And only until after they join, then we understand there is a lot of underlying issues not disclosed. But we want parents to be transparent, to be open, to actually work with us, because there's quite a lot of parents, they are worried about the stigma by the society, and they still need the support as well. Yeah.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I mean, there's various areas, for example, right from the beginning, I know that there are parents, right? And then the family, the immediate family, right? The support, and then the community support that you need. And then at state level, at government level, and, you know, the whole society. And then, you know, just to add here in CGS, you know, we have one, I think from your program, who's been working with us under our Marcom team. Yeah, yeah. So we're happy also, you know, to support and to see, you know, that the person can actually do the work, you know, and you know, we try our best to be in the environment where the inclusivity is there, right? It's not about this person is different, hence, you know, we cannot work with the person. We can actually. So the Marcom has been done a fantastic job actually working with our employees here. Okay, if I may go in terms of to Nori, in Malaysia, you know, there's a wide range of centers and schools dedicated to serving the special needs children. And as a founder of We Rock the Spectrum Gym, how does this gym facilitates the developmental needs for these children?
Okay, so the kids' gym that we have is an inclusive indoor play center, and what that means is that we welcome children of all abilities to come and play, to learn and grow together. So I think what sets us apart from maybe other indoor play centers you might be familiar with is that the team is trained to be inclusive and accepting. They have an understanding of neurodivergence so that they are able to welcome the children and the families. Additionally, we also have specialized equipment which are used in professional therapy settings. So we have the same type of stuff that an OT would use, a sensory integration specialist would use, and these are available for anybody who comes by. So the aim is to then make therapy or therapeutic activities as well more accessible. So if you come in and then you get a sense of how things could be done, perhaps you could initially If you get to see a therapist, you'd ask to speak to them about what program or what kind of activities does my child need? Because everybody is different. You've probably heard that, autism is a spectrum, and that means you have to look at every individual case. Some people are more highly sensitive, some people are not sensitive enough, and therefore different activities would be needed for each one. So if you would have an understanding of the program, you can come over to our gym, and the parents and the children can kind of do these activities together because the same equipment is available. And that reduces the cost by quite a lot. So it will go down to being about 20-30% of what it is. And at the same time, we recognize that even at about 35 to 40 ringgit, that's still not really affordable for people. So we've made the effort to work together with individuals and organizations who can support our kids. So for example, one of the programs that we've had that has shown good data and success, alhamdulillah, is therapy through play. And the purpose of the program is actually to support the parents or the caregivers build their skills and their confidence to support their kid. So they feel that they're empowered. Training is one of those, like for me in any area, biggest bang for your buck, because you sort of empower the person with new knowledge, skills, so that they can do stuff. Because if we have to rely on the services externally, it's still going to be very, very expensive. So a gym like ours welcomes everybody. It's inclusive, so it's with everybody. So the idea is that the kids who need that additional support feel welcome in an environment, maybe with other typical children. But when you enter the gym, you have a sense, or we'll share with you a little bit about what it means to be more inclusive. And the tagline for the gym is actually, finally a place where you never have to say, I'm sorry. And it's not that we don't encourage apologizing if you made a mistake, but you should never have to feel sorry, for being born with something, for being different.
Thank you, Nori. Such a great that, as a parent, not just for your child, but for his friends and for the whole community, whatever you have done. Yeah, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. Adli, maybe, through your experience again, now Lokman is 31.
27.
Sorry, 27, yeah. But those years, from the age probably at 5, 7 years old up until, for us, our high schools and everything. But yeah, you might want to share a bit of your experience for Lokman.
Lokman, he went through a very traumatic early childhood, because of my inability to accept him as a person with autism. So it was a big trauma to both of us, because I don't understand him, why he keep on jumping on one spot, and when I ask him to do something, he refused to do it, and I have to explain 3-4 times, yet he doesn't understand. So that causes us a bit of a rift between our relationship as father and son. It was so bad, I can tell you that, we can't sit next to each other. If I were to came back from the office, I will sit here, and he will sit over there. And he was shivering. Takut. Because I can be very, very temperamental, because I don't understand. It was a dark side of our journey, But ending to that, I began to understand why he behaves like this, and I began to accept him as he is a person with autism. Those days, kalau duduk sebelah sini, he was shivering, tau. He was shivering, takut, And I can't stand him, to be honest with you, I can't stand him. So it was a journey. It was a God-given journey. There's a blessing behind it, to the point that I understand why he behaves like this. And from that point, I wanted him to lead a life which is fulfilling. He lead a life like anybody else, So I started this little project called the Autism Cafe Project. In the beginning, it was basically getting him to earn a monthly living. That's all. But as it evolves, the objective now is getting to live his life to the fullest of his ability. So what we did was at the cafe, we don't teach them academic stuff. It's basically life skill. Because that's pointless for him to learn, because he doesn't understand academic. 1 + 1, if you tell him 1 + 1 = 2, he doesn't understand. But he understands if, let's say, you get him cookies, you place one cookies, one. This is another cookies, this is two. He understands that. So what we did was we get them to produce cookies, the cookies that we made. In the beginning, we tried getting them to make pineapple tart, but it was a disaster. It was really a disaster. The pineapple tart is very fragile. They're very fragile. They can't. So I realized they can't do this, but we tested with getting them to produce chocolate chips. It's a dummy-proof cookies, really. And they have, we're using this, we simplify the process by using Thermomix machine. I am not Thermomix advocate. I'm not an agent, But those items are very, very functional. Very functional. You see, for example, they love anything sequential. One, put this, two, put flour, 3 eggs, whatnot, In Thermomix, the Thermomix machine, the screen shows every single thing of that. So they just follow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we focus on their liking and their ability. We discard about their ability, their disability, but we focus on their ability. And today, the cookies, we've been selling them for the past 3-4 years. We have sold close to 8,000 bottles already. That is an achievement, So what we did was, as I said, though it's difficult, but there's a way that you can maneuver this and put it to your most advantage way, So I'm happy with the result. The boys are quite independent now. They're not intellectually intelligent as others, but they can function. All right?
Thank you, Mr. Adli. Such a nice story to hear. And yeah, I think we avoid the tart and focus on the cookies. Okay, I think we touched already into the transitioning. We talked about this, a bit into the independence because Adli mentioned, the process. Because transitioning to adulthood is particularly difficult. One part on the schooling is difficult, but transitioning to adulthood also is difficult due to, we've discussed some of this, limited employment. Grace has touched about that, employment opportunities, lack of comprehensive adult services, also we touched this, and scarcity of support systems for independent living. Yet, they still have to go through, at least 27. Both my cousins are in their 30s. It proves that, as I say, I went through this as well as a cousin, that my cousin, for example, the one in Australia, I think now he's even have 2 jobs, because one job for 2 days, another job for another 2 days. He's independent. He goes, I think 6:30 in the morning, already walk out from the house, take a bus. He knows which bus to take, and then go to his place and everything, and then he comes back. And when you're there at his place, he will cook us a very nice meal, and so he's on the talkative side. So not just he can cook, but he will talk with us and share a lot of things and explain things, and he loves to watch movies as well. Every time when there's movies, and then and these are old movies. Some of us must watch the movies, and we sit down with him, and he will share with us his reviews and everything. So it's quite those talkative is quite enjoyable actually, because you get a different perspective from them. But again, it's not easy as you move from that teenage life into the adulthood. And this maybe again for Encik Adli, you mentioned about the cafe, right? You have navigated this shift and supporting them. We just want to touch, what about his other siblings? How have they support him in all these years, especially from the teenage life into the adulthood life?
I think his siblings are okay. They have grown up already, and they lead their own life. But so far, we have none issue with our siblings, But I do get kind of, when they all grow up as teenagers and all, they have their own circle of friends, and their time with their friends is more precious than time with us. To them, they grown up and all. At this point of time, Luqman has, not to say less interaction with his siblings, but not as close as it was before. So that leads him to have a life which is, he doesn't have friends. So it's kind of sad, you know, you don't have friends. We have 2 boys with us who doesn't have friends, and they were in depression mode for quite some time. Pawas is one of the case. I kind of wish that they are now closer, but the fact is they are not. I think, as I said to you, they have their own life. I want not, you know. But that falls back on me. So I brought Luqman everywhere that I can. You know, like today, I brought him over here. Tomorrow, I'll bring him to over the sales punya activities, whatnot, you know. So he will have a full life. He doesn't miss kind of not having sisters and brothers, but he has his own life. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Adli. Grace, we just want to touch on this, supporting the transition. Yayasan GAMUDA has established Enabling Academy, right? And pioneering Malaysia's white-collar neurodiversity employment landscape, training and placing and all this. We will touch about it, but we just want to understand what would be the major challenge, you mentioned as well, but what are other major challenges for this transition of adulthood? Because you saw that, you mentioned about, parents are hiding things and everything, but working with them, from your own experience, what are the challenges, of transitioning from to adulthood?
I think one of the transitioning is when you are back in school, when you're adolescent, things are actually quite structured, quite routine. But when you're entering into the workplace, right, there's a lot of unforeseen circumstances that, just like the neurodivergent trainer that I mentioned earlier, that he said back in school, back in uni, he can score well. He can get all straight A's, no problem, because he's like very routine, very predictable. But when it comes to the actual workplace, there is a lot of really unpredictable situations or variables where I think one of the key things, the challenges, is their emotional well-being. Because a lot of them, especially even though like Encik Adli mentioned that there is different level of the spectrum, right? There are some that is maybe non-verbal, but we have some we deal with a lot that is like the level 1. So even though the public call them like high functioning, people will think that, hey, that should be okay, they can fit in well. But I would say this is the group that they struggle with a lot of different set of challenges, which is the mental health issues, which is really, really sad. We have a lot of them that have suicidal attempts, not just the thoughts, the attempts as well. And it is really critical issues that some of them, they feel very lonely inside. And some of them, they feel that I'm not being loved. I won't be able to find life partner ever because of my condition. So I would say that this is some of the challenges, even though we are able to find them a job, but if the root issues is not being addressed, it will still be affecting their jobs as well, because the depression will just kick in, and then it will just affect their mind. So that's why we also need trained allied health professionals that could also help to address their mental well-being as well, that they will be accessible and affordable, because some of them, they do not want to kind of cause a burden, like create a burden to the family to support all these psychological costs. They want to actually use their own salary to go for that. That's why we are glad to see nowadays some companies, they have their EAP program that they can actually, employees can seek psychological help and all. So that is one of the channel to tap on. So I think that is one of the challenges. And I would like to ask this question. Do you find eye contact stressful for you, or do you find it tiring? For us, it should be like a quite natural, normal, common things. But for especially some of our autistic individuals, even the level 1, eye contact can be very tiring for them. They can maintain, they know this is a social rules, but the thing is, I have one of them telling me, after job interview, she felt so tired she need to sleep it off until the next day. Because for that 1 hour, she focused through, but it is really using up a lot of her energy. Because the moment the eye contact happens, there's a lot of things sensory that they need to process. For us, our filtering system works very well. We can filter accordingly. But for them, their brain is not actually wired in such way. Their brain is process every single thing. So that's why for our neurodivergent individuals, as they're transitioning into the adulthood, I would say one of the key challenges is to navigating the social rules, especially the unspoken social rules. That we have this young adult that just get into this international company. Like for him, that he will feel that, hey, this is a nice gesture. But for them, in the corporate rules, this is actually not the good thing. So a lot of time we don't make things clear to them and leave them hanging or guessing. So I think in order to make it easier is that we need to be more clearer in our communication and also to understand why they behave in such a way. So that's why I would say that navigating social challenges is especially tough, that we need to have buddies, people who understand them, to actually stand in the gap to help them to understand.
Thank you, Grace. Yeah, I think here at CGS we have been embracing that, and welcoming our colleague in terms of how to work, and yeah, for sure, no eye contact or no, no eye contact. It is very difficult. And we know that some of us, we understand that, and we accept things as it is, and as long as the person can do the job well, we're happy, right? So we have to take things into a very different ways of understanding, and not everything has to be based on our KPIs, our standard KPIs, yeah. So the people have a different way to look at it. There's a question about that the individuals for neurodivergent only good for backroom, but I think Adli found some of them they can be with the clients more, and as I say, my own experience, my cousin, he has no problem of talking us and layaning us during dinners and everything. He's more happy. So actually it's not necessarily have to be backroom, right? I mean, they can, and some of them we just have to understand them better to know their strengths, like that you mentioned. Look at their strengths, look at what they're good at, don't look at what they can't do, but look more what they can do. And from my understanding also, they can do a lot more. I always did this one story where this guy went on a helicopter, I think around New York. It's a very famous story, yeah, and he can just draw everything after that, like one whole big wall or something of the whole of New York after one look into it. So that's amazing story. But there's a lot of amazing stories on this, but yeah, I'm just sharing that once you know how special they are, how talented they are, and understanding the strengths or that thing that they can do better than any of us, actually there's a lot more potentials actually, yeah. Now we on Nori's side, I have one question as a parent, right? How do you balance in terms of protecting your child? We talk about the stigma and everything, and he's not adult yet, but going forward, that how are you going to allow him to take maybe some professional risks? I guess now you're preparing for it, but one day how are you going to deal with that? Thanks.
Okay, hello, yeah. That's a pretty big question. I'm sure you've experienced that sort of thing with parents at GAMUDA. That was something that we were sort of asked to address by another agency that does similar work. The employable people. Yeah, so they're good folks. After GAMUDA pioneered the work that they do to support both the individuals and the companies, learn a bit more so that the transition is smoother. There is definitely this thing about parents struggling with that. I think the balance is very important in terms of wanting to protect your child, in terms of wanting to keep them safe, especially when we know the world can be a very challenging place, sometimes to the point of being cruel. But if you remember that your child is also a person, just another way of being human, then they deserve to have a life as full as they can, a life of purpose and meaning, and have that full potential. Also, like in terms of thinking about what you do with your other kids, right? There's also a measure of protection that you want for all your children, but you also want them to have the opportunity. So I think it is important to try to give them as much opportunity as possible where you can. That whole letting go is just difficult, I think, for parents in general. Maybe a little bit harder when your child has such high support needs, but it's very important to be able to do that, and it's going to take I think a number of things at work, because the truth is, no family is going to be able to do this alone, which is why I think that over the years, in our family, we started shifting towards more of this advocacy work. We want our child to be able to fit in, but at the end of the day, we also realize that society needs to make adjustments so that, that they can be a bit more welcoming to him, right? So if you look at trying to understand a social model of disability rather than just a medical model, you'd start to think of the social aspects of different things. Now, if somebody who has a certain amount of disability, whether it's physical, whether it's more mental or intellectual, but continues to have opportunities, continues to be accommodated, supported, and they can get through their day-to-day and their life fine, they live a full, fulfilling life, they're happy, they do well, they can, for those who can be independent, are independent, then they're not really, really disabled, right? Disability can come from your context. I think, many of us in the room, including myself, contact lenses. If I didn't have my lenses or my glasses, I probably categorize as, legally blind, or I certainly cannot see, definitely wouldn't be allowed to drive. And if I didn't have this, there would be so many things that would restrict my life that I simply cannot do. I just can't. But because, and of course this is a very straightforward example, but just to make the case, because I have something to support my vision, I can pretty much do what I want. So I'm not disabled, right? And there are things that we don't necessarily think about, like intersectionality, like your context, your social determinant of what can happen to you. Like Grace was saying, they want to try to help B40 families more. But the irony of it is that a B40 autistic person or person with a disability is already going to be disadvantaged from day one, doesn't have access to intervention, doesn't have access to kind of education that would be suitable, and that actually ends up making their condition worse. She also shared with us a lot of what happens in terms of mental health. Depression, trauma, anxiety, these are things that human beings can experience. It's not anything to do with the fact that they were born with a disability or they have a problem. These are things that were created because of their circumstance and their environment. So if we can help, and there are things I can do to support that, we would be less scared, I think, to let our kids go and to have that transition. By the way, it doesn't mean that we don't believe in tough love. But what we learned at home for Timur, our son Timur, that at one point when we were trying to get him to go to school all the time, be inclusive, open up so many opportunities, he got burnt out. And it's just, that whole, that balance is going to be kind of hard, but sometimes it's the environment and the surroundings that we need to look at as well, and to consider all those other things. And so in his case, yes, tough love can help human beings, and sometimes some of us, myself included, can only learn something when it's the hard way, but no one should be subjected to tough love as the default. That doesn't have to be your everyday. You should still feel that you have, love and security and your protected sense of belonging. We all need this as human beings. And then you can have the tough love maybe, once a week when you start going to the gym, suffering somewhere. That's okay. But if tough love is what you get every single day, you're not going to get a good outcome.
Thank you, Nori, for sharing that. This is open to any of you. If companies like us, CGS, can take just one step tomorrow, of this, topic that we discussed, just one, what should it be? Any one of you. I mean, all three of you or one of you, that doesn't matter. Yeah, if there's one step, us as a corporate, I mean, it could be CGS, it could be TM or Tenaga, whichever companies. Like, if there's one thing that you think, from our discussion and from your experience that we should do, to change tomorrow, just one step, what should it be? Go ahead, Adli.
I would go for this. Basically, understand them better. And having said that, you have to approach them in a way, not too, an approach in a way that you can understand them. For a good example is this, when you call candidates for interview, bear in mind, if you are calling individual with autism as well. So basically, the individual with autism, they're having trouble, putting a point across. When we call candidates for the interview, they are, on papers, they are qualified. But the thing is, they're having difficulties in representing themselves. They can't speak like us, they can't, vocalize their thought properly. So your interview with them has to be approached in a way that is suitable to them. The current scenario that you're having an interview doesn't suit them. They are on the losing point, number one. So if you can understand them and have some kind of interview session that is conducive to them. So remember, they are qualified, but they can't represent themselves in a proper manner. That is all. So the technique has to be there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Adli. Grace.
Yeah, but before I go into the immediate step, I would like to applaud CGS for actually making inclusive employment for our graduate. Yeah, what I want to applaud them is because I would say if not because of the right human environment that he is in, he wouldn't be able to sustain till today. Because we have seen so many workplaces with his character and his behavior may not be so understanding or accommodated by other group. But I would say that CGS have provided that right human environment who really learn to actually tap on his strengths. Even though no one is perfect, he may have room for improvement, but they are able to look at him from a different angle and to continue to provide him that opportunities. So I would say CGS has already taken a very good step in actually cultivating that right human environment to make them feel inclusive and supported. I think the other part is perhaps CGS can do an audit in the current or a survey, because this is something that GAMUDA, lately we have actually been on this journey for more than 10 years of hiring initiative. But the thing is only lately that because we want to start this neurodiversity support hub, right? We want to understand the current climate situation in GAMUDA, including our international offices. We actually run a survey to kind of find out, anonymous survey. So to get all staff to kind of respond, how many of them they actually are neurodivergent or suspected or don't want to disclose, what do they think that the company should do to make a more neuro-inclusive workplace? So I think this is something that perhaps CGS can consider, because you have so many staff force here. You can do a survey and a little advertisement. For this week, starting Thursday until Sunday, we are running a public awareness event in GMBB to actually help public to understand what neurodiversity is. It's an immersive experience that you will be entering into different room to experience. So if you are free, drop by GMBB this Thursday to Sunday, one of the days to check out, 11 to 8 any timing. If you can't make it, we will have another round at Menara GAMUDA as well, PJ Trade Center on 13, 14, 15. So later I will share the poster with the organizer and then you all can check it out as well.
I think we will share with our emails for all the employees. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Grace. Please, Nori.
I love Grace's idea, because doing a survey and audit will tell you more about what it is that you have. So for example, you have one declared team member who is neurodivergent, but you might have some who are not. And it's, absolutely you should respect if they don't want to share. But I think to get a sense of what there is and if they could feel more supported at work, that would be great. I would like the survey, I'd like to suggest that the survey include maybe if they can share about their family members, because they might be caregivers. Now, if they're caregivers, you probably have like ERGs, like employee resource groups for different things. So if you don't, you might want to have one that can be an internal safe space, supportive environment for some families who might be caring for persons of high support needs. Actually, their high support needs might be their parents. Many of us live in a sandwich situation. We're looking after our kids. We're also still looking after our parents, both still need us a lot. Maybe this can just help people feel a bit more supported. Maybe there's different ways that they can help each other out, or just even sharing. Just a safe space for sharing would be great. Another kind of idea is to continue to support policies that have already worked out for everybody universally, like continuing with work from home, flexibility in terms of how certain deliverables and things like that are done. And that internal audit would also help you see maybe there are some areas or departments or areas of your work that could benefit from some NDs coming on board. Petronas said when they started hiring and they got people to come in as data analysts, started off with just 6 people for such a huge company, right? But they discovered that in the admission, like the application process, and there are certain tests to see how they do their work. They had never seen such high scores and perfect scores in their life ever. That's because the neurodivergent brain sometimes happens to be able to do certain things that the typical human brain cannot, right? So having an understanding of where you are, all the different things that you can do, just, it's so good that you've already begun, you have an event like this, you've already got a team member. I think it's just that little next step, I'm hoping, is not just the one thing. There's so many different things. And then when you have your, like the ERG, maybe they will sit and, make certain requests which can get support from HR. Caregiver days off, which are not part of annual leave, like legitimate caregiver days off, right? And the number of big companies in Malaysia already doing a lot of some of these things, and you don't have to kind of invent any wheels. You can just kind of cross-refer, look at some things that you can do. There's a lot actually, and my own personal hope, or whenever I get an opportunity to do these kind of talks, is to ask everyone to just have a think that maybe you personally can do something a little bit to make somebody's lives a little better, If you cannot support the individual, you can certainly support the caregiver. So you might know of a neighbor or an extended family, and sometimes it's not that you didn't have the intention, but I know some people have come to tell me that they're a bit fearful or they don't know if it's their place. But sometimes it can just be a start of asking, how are you doing? And not like, apa khabar, like, hello, but like, how are you? And maybe is there something I can do for you that can free up your time, or that can help make it a bit easier for you to care for your loved one? Yeah, but thank you so much. Thank you for asking that question. It's my favorite question every time we do these things.
Sorry, please do allow me to add one
of
point.
Course, please.
I think there is one term that is, when you met one person with autism, you have just met one. So I think what is crucial, another immediate step, is to have a neurodivergent human library to really hear their voice, because nothing about us without us, right? So even though I know the candidates currently with CGS may not be open, but you can always consider other neurodivergent advocates out there that would like to advocate, that would like people to know more about neurodiversity. Yes, to hear from the lived experience. Yeah.
Thank you, Grace. We could about to reach the end, but if any of you have any last words that you want to share for this session before I make my closing a bit. Anything, Adli or Grace or Nori, anything else you want to add? Please go ahead.
Test.
I brought cookies that was made by our boys at the cafe. They are on sale. Please buy as many as you can.
Yeah, we have always been supportive. I think Adli knows, even our corporate day, right? We were supportive of, and our recent, our open house as well, where all of you have your booth there. So we will continue to support, and definitely just to add, we're not going to end here. We did discuss a bit, after this there are other programs that we're going to do. CGS will continue to support this, and just to kind of sums up things that today we have heard different perspectives from the lens of a passionate advocate, parent, professional. But one thing is clear, that these neurodivergent individuals need not to be fixed. All right. What they need is understanding. We discussed about that. what they need is an opportunity and environment that recognize the challenges as well as the strengths. Inclusion is not an act of charity, but is a commitment for all of us, right? To raise or raising humanity. So let us end today. I mean, it's a bit cliche, but not asking what neurodivergent can adapt to the world, but how all of us, the world, us can adapt and to do better for them. All right, and I just want to say thank you very much, our panelists and everyone here for taking part in this meaningful conversation. Thank you so much. Okay.